Lloyd Wright, the architect naturalist, conveys the story that when he was a young boy, his uncle took him for a walk. They were walking through the woods, and all of a sudden, there appeared this big open field. It was a snow-covered field that just finished snowing. And his uncle said, "Frankie, I want you to stand right here. I'm going to walk to the other side of that field. When I get to the other side of the field, then I'm going to call for you. Then I want you to walk across this snow-covered field." Little Frank Lloyd Wright said, "Okay." So his uncle started across the field. In about 5 minutes, he got to the other side. And then he called for Frankie to come on across. Well, look, young Frank started walking across the field, but then his eye noticed this tree that had fallen some years prior. So he walked all the way over to look at that fallen tree. After he examined that fallen tree, he was ready to start back toward his uncle. Then he noticed on the other side of the field was an old abandoned rusty car. So Frank decided to walk over and check out that old abandoned rusty car. And after looking at that car for a long time, he noticed way on the other side of the field were some cows. So he decided to walk all the way over there and check out those cows. And after viewing the cows, he finally made it all the way to his uncle. And his uncle turned him around and he said, "Young Frank, I want to teach you a lesson. Look at our tracks in the snow. When I started across this snow-covered field, my tracks go straight. I went from one side to the other side. You, however, Frankie, you went all the way over to look at that tree, then you went over to look at that car, then you went all the way over to look at those cows, and it took you forever to get to the other side of the field." He said, "Frankie, the lesson I want to teach you is this. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line." And young Frank Lloyd said that he learned a lesson from his uncle that day. And the lesson he learned was this: never to make the same mistake his uncle did. Because his uncle turned his back on the possibilities of life. Instead of enjoying that which was around him and looking for the tree and the car and the cows, he went straight. He had peripheral vision, and he lost sight of everything. He turned his back on the possibilities of life. That turns out to be the key message of today's gospel reading. Now, the full gospel I just read, coming out of the 10th chapter of Mark, verse 2 to 12. Let's take a look at a small section of the gospel, verse 2 to 4. Now, this is again the 10th chapter of Mark. It says there, the Pharisees approached Jesus and asked, "Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife? What did Moses command you?" Moses permitted a husband to write a bill of divorce and dismiss her. Now, when you look at those 3 verses, there's a theme that has built up pretty fast. Do you see what the theme of those 3 verses might just be? Any idea? What do you think those verses are really talking about? What do you think the main subject matter there is? Any idea? Anyone? Any idea? Okay, well, I'll have to give you the answer. Now, when you look at it, the main theme of those 3 verses, at least it seems this way, appears to be the subject of divorce. But you got to say to yourself, these are 3 verses out of the 10 verses of the 10th chapter of Mark's gospel. Is that the case? Is Jesus talking only about divorce? Let's take a look at verse 10 and 11 of the 10th chapter of Mark. Here it is. "Whoever divorces a wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery." So clearly it appears on the surface up to this point that tonight's gospel reading deals with the subject of divorce. And I say to myself, that can't be the case, because the gospel message is a message for all of us. So as a priest, I say to myself, it can't be talking about divorce because priests can't marry. It doesn't pertain to single people, they're not married. It doesn't pertain to married people, they're not divorced. So is today's gospel reading talking and dealing with all of us, or just with this group of those folks who once were married and then got divorced? Well, here's what we have to do. We have to understand the word divorce in the pure context of which it is delivered. So let's take a look at the word divorce. Divorce, a powerful word in our lexicon. Its origin is Latin, and it comes from the word divert. And it means this: its pure meaning is to turn away from something. You see, when you turn away from something, you've gone through the process of a divorce. So today's gospel reading in 10th chapter of Mark, verse 2 to 12, does it only deal with those who once were married and got divorced? Well, it deals with a lot more than that. It turns out to be it's talking probably to just about everyone at Mass tonight, because everyone here has experienced some style of divorce in their life. Everyone here has either turned away from something, diverted, and when you divert from something, that means you're walking with it, and then all of a sudden you divert and you go the other way. You separate yourself from the thing you were walking with, a divergence. Now, there's all different types of divorces. There's what is known as divorce from family. And maybe you are experiencing currently that in your life tonight. That is when you have harsh words with a family member. There is an argument that cannot be reconciled. Many times that argument occurs when the last parent dies and the property is being dissipated, liquidated, and a family member believes they should have gotten more than they did, or distribution wasn't equal. And since the distribution of that property wasn't equal, what does that person usually say? That's it. I don't want to have anything to do with my family anymore. They're dead to me. I'm cutting them off. That's divorce from family. Very, very painful. If you walk away from your family, and you might think you have a right to do so, and perhaps you do, but the pain that causes you and the pain that causes them. Because now you have to live in the same world they're living in. And if they live in the same town as you, you always have to go to the store and wonder, are they in the store as well? So when you're pushing a grocery cart down a center aisle and you see they made a bend up at the other end, you got to quickly turn your cart around and try to figure out, how do I finish shopping without running across the person I've cut off from my life? And sometimes the only way to do it, you leave your cart right there and you leave the store and you wait for another day. Divorce and family, that is so painful. But there's so many families that I have had conversations with that are experiencing divorce from family. They have turned away from family, or family have turned away from them. That's a painful divorce. Then there's divorce from a dream. You know, when we're young, and we got a lot of young people tonight because they were here for a retreat for confirmation. But when you're young, you have all kind of dreams and all kind of goals and all kind of aspirations. And then there's a tendency for life to get in the way and time to kind of cloud the dream that we once could see so clearly. And then we get to a point in our lives when we get older, we say to ourselves, I'll never be able to attain my dream. My goal seems impossible. So what do? I give up on my dream. I give up on my goal. I will just finish off my years like this. What a difficult way to live. To no longer have a goal, no longer have a dream, just buying time until your heart stops. That's divorce from a dream. And then there is divorce from yourself. That is very difficult. And maybe this is something you have experienced, and if you haven't, there's a good chance you might, and hopefully you never do. But you might know someone who's gone through a divorce from themselves. That's a person who is disgruntled, they're disappointed, they become angry in life. The smile is off their face. Their heart is broke for whatever reason, however that happened. And when they wake up in the morning, they no longer see the start of a new day as something that is exciting, all the possibilities this day offers me. But when they wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night, the conclusion is this: great, one less day I'll have to live. It's over. I got one less day in my life. Isn't that a difficult way to live when you divorce yourself? You can't even stand who you are. Hopefully that's not true for anyone tonight. But you might know someone who that is true for, and what would you want to do? You want to pray for that person. You want to pray for the person who is divorced from their family, divorced from their dream, or have divorced themselves. And then there's the divorce from God. Now you're here tonight, so you're not going through divorcing God tonight, but maybe you are questioning the integrity of God. But when you're divorced from God, it's those people who say, yes, God is there. There's no question about it. I absolutely believe in God. I believe He's there. He's there for everyone else, but He's never been there for me. He's not there for me. Since He isn't there for me, I'm not going to be there for Him, so you just kind of walk away from God. Now, maybe you've done that already in your life. And you realize when you're on thin ice and when you walk away from God and you're falling into a dark tunnel and you don't see any light at the end of that tunnel, there's a tendency to say, God, I've got to come back. I diverted. I was with you and then I walked away from you, to turn away from something. That's the meaning of divorce. And then you say to yourself, it's only the absence of God that now I understand the meaning of the presence of God in my life. I had to be with that before I could understood what it meant to have. Divorce is painful. What is Jesus talking about in today's gospel reading? No, it's just more than divorce of a husband and wife who once were married. That's easy. That allows most of us to say, oh, it's talking about you, not about me. This gospel has nothing, it has everything to do with me and you. Because divorce occurs in many different flavors and colors. To divorce your family, or have a family member divorce themselves from you. To divorce yourself from your dream and from yourself and from God. You know, young Frank Lloyd Wright, he was absolutely correct. His uncle tried to teach him a lesson. He said, Frankie, all you want to do is go straight across the field. Don't look left and don't look right. But Frankie said no. Because when you do that, you cut out the possibility of what's over to the left and what's to the right. And if I look broader than the visual, my peripheral vision, then I'll see that life has so much to enjoy. So maybe divorce for me isn't the answer. Maybe to turn my back on family or dream or myself or God isn't the way. And Frank Lloyd Wright concludes, yes, I learned a lesson from my uncle that day. Never to make the same mistake that he did.